We are currently 50 feet underground, standing underneath one of America's most decorated battleships. That's right, we're currently underneath at the stern of the Battleship New Jersey. As you can tell, a lot of work is going on. We're currently at the North Atlantic Ship Repair, and today we're going to give you guys a special tour of Battleship New Jersey, something that you've never seen like this before, and something that we probably won't see again until the late, 2050s. And so before we get started, make sure you subscribe, you turn on notifications, and you give this video a thumbs up. A special thank you out to my patrons on patreon.com for supporting me to be able to do videos like this. If you want to support this channel and have your name at the end of the video, all you have to do is click the link in the description below. And a special thank you out to Battleship New Jersey, who allowed me to come down here today, because this is honestly, this is like a childhood thing. I'm like so ecstatic. I'm like a kid down here. I love it. So let's go ahead and get started. Before we dive into the tour, I do have to tell you that the Battleship New Jersey will only be like this for a few more weeks, and dry dock tickets are still available. They're going into the first weekend of June, and a lot of those dates are starting to fill up. So if you've ever wanted to do this, now's your time to jump on the battleshipnewjersey.org and sign up for the dry dock tour. As I said before, dates are filling up, and you want to go ahead and do this now, because it's going to be late 2050 when they're able to do this again, if they do this again. Also, if you can't make it and you want to support the Battleship, jump on their website, which I did link below in the description of this video, where you can donate to this project and other projects. And one last thing, I'm working on a very, very big video for you if you can't make it to the Battleship New Jersey. This video, which is going to be shot on our 360 camera, will allow you on YouTube or on your phone to get a tour of the Battleship New Jersey. And all you would need to do is kind of turn your screen. We're going to go ahead and walk around everything from the stern all the way to the bow. And that video will be coming in a few weeks, because it takes a little while to edit that video together. So make sure you are subscribed and you turn the notifications. Plus, we are trying to hit 100,000 subscribers, and we need your help to do that. Anyway, let's get started with our tour. We're getting started with our tour here on the starboard side. Now, we're not going to make our way down there, because as you can see, a lot of work is taking place. On the port side, they already blasted everything away, they already painted, and some anodes have already been installed. So we're going to check out that side, but of course, we're going to start in the stern, because look at these propellers. It is insane. You see how big they are, and I know the camera really doesn't give it much context, but these are 20-ton propellers, and they got 4 of them. And today they're working on a side project. Let me share that with you. This project going on behind me is boxing the propeller. If you know what that means, is you actually see right now, they added a box outside of the propeller shaft in order to stop water from coming in. He's actually welding it on right now. So what is interesting about this project is that, first of all, they weren't able to do this until they started getting all the support from you guys, from your donations and tours, so they kind of added this on as a project. The reason why this is important is because when the ship was in service, you can see the shaft right here, the little section where water was allowed to get in and kind of lubricate the shaft. And well, since now it's in dry dock, they can kind of cover that up so that when it gets back out to Camden, water doesn't get in. And there wasn't much water getting in, but you would have to pump it out from time to time. This way, no water is getting in, which is pretty neat. And of course, if they ever need to take that off, it's not technically like fully on, or they can kind of remove that. And if they have to move the propeller, they should be able to. And you can see him right now. Woo! He is grinding away to make it smoother. We're moving our way to the stern of the ship, because you're back here. You have to get underneath one of these propellers. It is absolutely incredible how big these things are. Remember, she has 4 of them, 2 outside, 2 inside. I mean, look at these propellers. You can see this one still has growth on it. Well, this one, all painted up and looks pretty. And this is looking down here towards her keel. Let's go ahead and take a walk down here so you can see what she looks like. Because as you can tell, half of it is painted, while the other half is not. Remember, port side is done in terms of painting. On starboard side, you can see they're actively working today. It is quite dark down here, so if it's a little grainy, I apologize, but let's head down. What is unique about New Jersey, which her sister ships don't have, are these openings. When they were designing this ship, this had ironwood in it for bearings, and they tried it. It didn't work, so they removed it and then allowed free-flowing water in and out. The reason why it didn't work is because, imagine this here, it was causing a lot of vibrations on these guys. And yeah, that did not work. So when it came time to build her sister ships, they said, you know, forget about it. We don't need that. And so in New Jersey, this was just free-flowing water in and out. Something cool, something once again you would have never seen if you didn't come down here and take a look at this during a tour. I mean, that's a shot that you can never see. I mean, at least until, what, late 2050? How neat, right? And I have to admit, when you're down there, it's kind of, with all the power washing going on, it's kind of like smoky. Kind of like, I don't know, it's like a movie in a way. While we're back here, we actually have a small little treat because this is one of the rudders, the one on the starboard side. And the reason why I say it's a little treat is because today they're pressure testing it. For those who don't know, this is hollow, okay? This right here is hollow, and so they have to make sure there is no leaks and that no water is getting in. So they fill it up with air, they bring it to a certain pressure, and then they keep an eye on it to see if that pressure changes. So they'll leave it like that for a while, and then once it's done and it passes, they're good to go. Imagine if there is some kind of hole in here and that pressure goes down. There's another way to kind of figure out where that hole is, and that is by getting soapy water, and throwing it on there, keeping the pressure up, and then you look for those little bubbles, and you find those bubbles, and you know, hey, there's the problem. Then you can go ahead and either slap some steel on top of it, or kind of just grind it out, then put another coating on it, whatever you have to do in order to make sure that it is airtight and that no water is getting in. We're now going to make our way down to the port side, and there's so much to share with you, so let's go ahead and just dive right into it. First, just look at this shot. Am I right? It is beyond gorgeous. I was just saying to the crew, how could you get used to seeing this? This is just, I mean, my mind's exploding just looking at this. There's a lot of things I want to point out to you. First, let's start with the propeller, and then the anodes, and then make our way all the way to the bow. So as we make our way back, here is the port propeller. You'll notice something really interesting. Do you notice it yet? If you said, hey, there's a big chunk missing out of it, yeah, you would be right. That is a big chunk missing from it. So this is kind of like an interesting story. There's a lot of things on this ship that they didn't know was a thing until they dry docked it. And there's no like real story behind it. There's no real information about it, and all we know is that in the 80s, the service reports came out, they never mentioned this, and so ultimately, they just assumed that when it went into mothball fleet in the 90s, you know, that something happened, and, you know, they said, oh, don't even write it down, if they ever need it for service, we'll fix it, and that's it. There really is no documentation, and there's a few things like that on this ship, One of them I'm going to share with you in a second all the way down there. And so that's where that comes in. It's quite interesting. But while we're back here, the anodes. That's right. There's going to be 600 of these across the entire, well, in certain sections of the ship. You can see them right here at the stern. They are made of aluminum, and this is what they look like. You see them right here. And no, you do not paint them, because then obviously the system will not work. And just like the little bolts sticking out, you don't paint them as well. You need metal on metal for them to work. And while we're on port, you can see that this shaft has already been boxed in. Let me flip the camera around for you. You can see how they did it too. It's like it's a ring. They cut in half, they place it on there, and then shaped metal. They weld it on, they sand it down. You can see they have to repaint it, and then they'll be good to go. And this is probably one of the best angles to look up to and see how tall she is. Am I right? Woo! You don't realize how tall she is until she's out of the water and you're standing under her. Anyway, let's continue straight. While we're walking down, you can see a lot of the blanks have been tested and painted. And one of the questions that people have is, why are there so many hooks on here? And that is actually quite interesting. You don't realize how heavy these blanks are. And so they needed a way in order to hold it into place, either to hold it in to be welded or to bring it down. So let's say this one here, for example, they needed to remove this. What they would do is they would get rope, they would fish it through here, and then pull it down. You would have 4 of them. And then those 4 guys would hold it. And then they would obviously undo the weld, and then those 4 guys would slowly bring it down to the ground. And so you need to put it back on. They would do the same thing. They would fish the wire through. Those guys would then pull it back as a team. It would get up there. They would hold it as tight as possible so that crews can weld it right back on. And right now they're actually painting, so they can't get too far down there. But you can see that, you see how the metal kind of looks kind of funky and out of shape? Well, you can see a part right here has been fixed. A couple other parts that look like they're not perfectly straight. Well, that's another one of those stories where turns out they hit something. There's no documentation what it could be. One of the guesses that they were probably going through the Panama Canal. And remember, it's not that wide, and this ship is massive, and potentially she scratched up against one of the walls. Once again, we don't really have documentation, so it's kind of like anyone's guess right now. But I have to admit, it's kind of cool to see stuff like that.
As we make our way over to the bow of the ship, you're going to see in a second the damage that was caused on the side. You can see it right here. We're going to touch it in a second. See how bent it is. That's another one of those mysteries. They think it happened in the Panama Canal, but there's no proof of it right now.
Crews are now putting the tarps back down. It's actually getting closer and closer to their end of day, so. And this is what she looks like when we're out of that 50-foot dry dock. Can't really see much because they have the tarps up, because they're power washing, so things are coming off. And then they're also adding on paint, which a lot of chemicals. So this is a whole safety net to make sure none of this stuff comes out here and disturbs the Philadelphia Navy Yard. A lot of people are asking me, why aren't you doing a drone shot over here? Well, it's because of airplanes. Airplanes fly at 1,200 feet here. You can actually see one coming right above my head, right over there. And because of aircraft flying like this, right over the battleship, you know, we kind of aren't allowed to fly here. FAA says no, no. And this is the gangway to get on the ship. Very different than in Camden. But I just want to share with you what it looks like from up here, looking down. You can see the pretty new paint. Remember that this section right here where the boot is, that has 5 layers. Well, the red has 3. And everyone's asking, well, aren't they going to paint this? No, at least not in dry dock. And you're probably saying, but Joey, why aren't they painting this? It doesn't make any sense. Well, you want to do that kind of work outside the dry dock because the more time you keep it in here to do projects like that, it costs a lot more money. And while she's at berth or at port, you could just kind of swing over the edge and kind of paint the other side. So you save that for that time versus here where you can do the stuff underneath where you're never able to do it unless she's in dry dock. While we're over here, you can take a look at the new Teak. When we came by a few months ago, they were working on this and you could see it looks fantastic. They did a great job. You can see they're working on the other side over there as well. I know you guys can't smell this, but it smells absolutely amazing. And this is looking over the bow on port, and it's weird looking over and not seeing water. That to me is the strangest thing, because you're used to looking down and seeing water, and instead it's just 50 feet plus an additional 10 feet down, so 60. And you're probably hearing in the background some pumping noise. Well, that is this pump. They're working in other tanks inside. But yeah, man, this floor, I'm super impressed with how good the Teak turned out. And this is another view just from the other side. We got off a port and we're staring at port. And you can see a lot of these marks. A lot of people are saying, what are all these dark marks? Well, this is the reason why they're not painting the top half. When you move a ship that doesn't have a plant that's working, you have to have tugboats. Well, what are those tugboats made out of? At least the outside skin. Well, it's rubber. Well, that rubber bumps the ship and moves the ship. And so when it does that, it leaves marks like this you see behind me. And so let's say that they did paint the top layer here, okay? All the way up above the water line. Well, that would mean that when they tow her out over to Paulsboro and then bring her all the way back to Camden, there's gonna be a lot more marks. So it kind of doesn't make any sense to paint it right this moment. So later on, whenever, another project, another time, and she's at port, they can then paint the top half above the water line. Making her way over to the bow again. And you can see, man, woo! It is incredible to see her like this. That is kind of cool to see, right? We now made our way to the bow of the ship, and it is unbelievable how this looks. First of all, once again, it's a massive ship to begin with, so just standing here is breathtaking. But to see it like this, you have the curtain here, you have this side painted, the other side they're working on right now, so it's really hard to see anything. It's just, it really is breathtaking. And just take a moment and just look, right? She is so beautiful. And as you can tell right now, this side of the ship is pretty much done. They have a little more work to do on it, and they're working hard over there. And once this side is done and the anodes are placed, they're gonna reflood this entire dry dock, lift it up, and they're gonna bump the ship 4 feet. Joey, why are they bumping the ship? That doesn't make any sense. Well, imagine this. She is sitting on 302 of those blocks. That means there's a lot of surface space down there that's not being painted. So in order to paint those surfaces, they have to refloat her. They have to move her 4 feet, which is the size of those blocks, place her back down, and then paint that section. Then once they're done with that, they'll go ahead, reballast her, float her back up, and then pull her out of here. She'll then go over to Paulsboro, which you can't really see, but it's right over there, before then getting towed all the way back to Camden.
There is so much work going on the starboard side that was extremely loud. And if you can hear in the background, those are massive generators, which is creating power and pressure for the power washers, because Remember how thick that paint is. They have to get off all of that paint before applying new paint. These are the massive generators that are needed in order to do that process. And let me tell you something, they are loud.
Before we go, just so you guys know, you can buy almost all this merchandise online. Some of the stuff is specific to dry docking, but like for example, you get hats, some of the other cool souvenirs. You got dry dock tour shirt and other shirts. This one here looks really awesome. You've got these shirts over here, and then you have polos. And the cool thing is, you see what's in here? That's right. The old ones, you can now buy. They should have these on their website by the time this video goes online. But you can own a piece of the Battleship New Jersey besides the Teak. And those run you about $75 each. It's a good deal for a piece of history. Plus, you can also get the teak wood. And many different sizes too. You get the small ones. And then they have these ones here. For the metal. And then it looks like it's engraved. But there you guys go. That is our tour of the Battleship New Jersey. If you want to go ahead and donate, jump on battleshipnewjersey.org. This project right here, when you donate, you're still donating to this project. They have other projects going on as well, such as the teak flooring, which will be a couple-year process. But right now, they need all the support that they can get because this right here, most decorated battleship in the United States, she herself needs to be beautiful, and they're doing that right now with your support. Anyway, I want to thank you for joining me. If you haven't done so yet, please subscribe, turn on notifications, and give this video a thumbs up. I'm Joey. As always, I'll see you on the beach, which we're in the Delaware Bay River. Not really like a beach kind of day. I guess get that way down to Delaware. I'll see you on the beach. See you later. Bye.